My name is Carsian. Almost 3 weeks ago, I released Reefside, an animated music video that was in development for over a year. Many hours and much learning went into this project in between school days and online classes. In a recent post I made detailing the story of how Reefside was written, I told the story of how I was visionless about my music before I wrote the song. Inspired to follow in the footsteps of my heroes and bring about new frontiers in original Pinoy music, I set out to create the Dolphin Era, an audiovisual body of work dedicated to expressing my love for the ocean, having grown up in a family that loved scuba diving. I have so much more I want to talk about regarding my passion for this project, but that's a story for another time. I hope this mini documentary of our journey in creating this era inspires aspiring animators to pursue their own projects too. The goal is to show you that it is entirely possible, even for a bunch of kids working in between school hours. As with any artistic endeavor, as the music evolved, so did the artwork. What you've been hearing this entire time was the original demo I wrote for Reefside on July 11th, 2019. It was awful. It only bears a subtle resemblance to the final song, but it's where it all started. Much of the era's original artwork was based on photos of the ocean with white titles over them, but I quickly realized that this was an incredibly boring artistic direction that left little room for creativity down the line. Instead of limiting myself to bland title formats, I instead opted to go back to my roots of being a visual artist first and foremost. I took inspiration from animated works by Makoto Shinkai, Pixar, Porter Robinson's Worlds, and Studio 4C, or is that 4 degrees Celsius? I'm honestly not sure. And I decided to develop the era based on a colorful, cel-shaded style of animation. I had never done an animated project like this before. New tools and techniques had to be learned as we went along, making the project insanely fun but challenging. Going into the project, I strove to maintain one philosophy throughout production. Reefside was to be animated and developed entirely using free software, with exceptions being purely for convenience sake. All the traditional animation on the MV was done in Krita, using basic timeline and onion skin functions. I typically animate characters at 12 frames per second, sometimes changing the timing depending on the feel of the movement. The background is painted in advance to set the framing and composition. After animating the sketch to get a feel for timing and inking the line art, the PNG image sequence is exported and given to the masking artists to set the boundaries for where the color is to be set. Each color is given its own layer for the sake of control. This also means that certain shadows can have their own layer and don't have to be redrawn every frame. I've received comments saying that giving each color its own layer sounds tedious and time-consuming. To that, I say, it is. It really is. But the time and effort put into setting layers up help prevent any disasters that may happen in the future, such as finding out you've accidentally colored a badger zipper incorrectly, or that you want to change the hue of a shadow. The final 2D animation is then rendered in MP4 format with a bright blue or green background for when we composite the 2D animation with the 3D elements later on. Doing this is essential because videos can't be transparent on their own. We'll get back to this later. For the backgrounds, I used a combination of digital painting in Krita and 3D modeling with Blender. Blender was a key part of getting the oceans to look just right with the least possible work. Consistently animating surface water freehand is one of the most difficult things to do, so most productions either opt for either simple rendering or CGI. There were next to no updated tutorials on YouTube for getting the ocean look I wanted, so I combined techniques from different tutorials. Using a plane with an ocean modifier, a toon shader, and carefully placed light objects, I was able to create a simple cel-shaded ocean for close-up shots. However, for scenes with a much wider view of the ocean, this method was incredibly taxing on my PC. By the way, here are my specs so you can laugh at me. And the waves tiled in a way that looked unappealing. To remedy this, I used a second ocean technique using a Musgrave texture on a perfectly flat plane, along with the same toon shader colors, allowing for seawater to smoothly transition from the detailed waves to the fake waves. Lowering the level of detail on farther objects is one of the best ways to optimize performance. Another method I studied for the CGI backgrounds was projection mapping, which I learned from YouTuber Olaf Storm. Go check out his channel, this guy's incredibly skilled. After modeling islands in 3D, a render is exported to be painted over. The finished paint over is then exported as a PNG to be projected back onto the 3D geometry. The effect looks great, and I believe the technique is used in Shinkai's films, but I'm not sure. Lastly, I painted 2D buildings based on photo reference and brought them into the Blender project as planes to give the scene a sense of depth through parallax, which simply means that farther objects move slower and closer objects move faster. All rendering is done in Eevee for speed and that controlled, cartoony look. Oh, by the way, these clouds were painted by my assistant art director Angel, who also oversees the consistency of the era's overall look. The final step in the process is to composite, or combine, the 2D and 3D animation together in video editing software. Reefside was composited and edited using Premiere Pro with the help of a friend for the sake of convenience and control, but you can use any free video editing software that has basic chroma key or green screen functions, such as VSDC, HitFilm Express, or DaVinci Resolve. I'm using VSDC for this example as I have the most experience with it. Using these, subtle movements, camera blur, and even some more parallax can be added to the scene to give it some more depth. Here's the finished scene. For creating text and graphic designs, I use GIMP. I find its text tool to be a lot more intuitive and fleshed out than Krita's, and it offers more control over color adjustments. Krita to me is more suitable for painting and animation, whereas GIMP is much more suitable for text and editing work. Together, both programs are a force to be reckoned with, and I love working with the two. For many of the era's designs, I've worked with Sam Noel as a consultant. He makes sure things pop and look readable. To be honest, this video was a bit of a last-minute decision to make. The next MV is already in pre-production, but I decided to put that on hold so we could document the era's process in a short video like this one. It's my first non-music YouTube video, so it's actually really exciting for me. Does this mean I'm a YouTuber now? Oh man. Anyway, I sincerely hope this video helps in some way. I was completely clueless going into this project, and now I'm able to share my learnings with all of you. Some of my friends have been encouraging me to start a tutorial series on everything I do, but I don't know, maybe I will in the future. Let me know in the comments below, but I'd like to focus on the project itself and the final products more than its development for now. It means so much to me that my work means so much to you. If you want to support the era, consider subscribing and streaming my music on Spotify. It's free. You can always unsubscribe. My dream now. I've been Carsian, and I'll see you all next time.